And he said, just let him know for sure so that they'll get the room set up. He wants to put an extra table or something in there so we'll have our goodies. So I figured I will let him know. Our numbers. How many? I was going to say, Chaim, you're going back to Israel after Pesach? Right?
We used to use that library when Rabbi Shapiro was made. Long story.
Good morning, Bob.
Morning, Robert Hensley.
Okay, I'm going to start the sponsors and then we'll go to today's Gemara may be the easiest Amud in all of Yevamos. Okay, it's a little bit long, but it's mostly Agadita. So it's not that's why I sort of suggest that if we just follow along, we should be fine. Okay. A year of learning by Sue and Arnie Gerlich in memory of Malka Proman and Philip Mann, and Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch and Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henya Rivka Pro Rosna bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, and in memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. By the way, we have orange juice. If people want orange juice, we still have orange juice left over too. Okay. Charlie and Gail Kaplan in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Siddell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. The children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratova bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata bat Asher. Friends of Nina Moynester, Nechama Asna bat Yitzchak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigdal, Ezecher Nishmat Simcha Melech ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha. A month of learning by Lydia and Abe Krause's many friends in honor of their 50th anniversary. Josh and Carol Sanborn in memory of his parents, Chiana bat Aryeh Leib and Shmuel Aryeh ben Baruch. Jill and Perry Meltzer in memory of her father, Yaakov ben Yosef. A week of learning by the family of Esther Shepatovsky in her memory, Esther Riva bat Batzalel. Sid Paris in memory of his father, Chaim ben Aaron Kohen. Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Charlie's wife and Sam's sister, Menucha Sarah bat Yechiel Michel, and in memory of Sam's mother and Charlie's mother-in-law, Zissel bat Yehoshua. Leslie and Gail Kaplan in memory of his mother, Pesha bat Shmuel Yitzchak Halevi Vitzipora. Andrea and David Dolmy in memory of her mother, Edel Tzina bat Shimshon. A day of, today's the 23rd. And that is it then. May the Neshamas have an Aliyah, Crank Rafiel, Velti Yeshua Shem Atzliah, and the Chol B'nai Israel a good Gaben Shtiach. Okay. Okay. All right, we are. Good morning. Okay, just in a moment, we're going to start on Ted Zion Amud Aleph. Was Marvin coming up? Anybody know for sure? Marvin wasn't in elevator, was he? He was here. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to go back very quickly to the bottom of Tedvav Amud Beis. Okay. We saw that the Gemara said you could challenge that idea of the Kal V'chomer. Okay. Mala almana shehi atzma mitchalelet, the same way that the almana herself is, I want to use the word, Artscroll translated, I don't like the word desecrated, disqualified from the kahuna. And I think, what does Koran have? Disqualified also. I think that's a better translation. The same way that she is disqualified from the kahuna, va'amar laho tsarot mityarei ani, and then he answers that he said to them regarding the co-wives, mityarei ani, why then did he say that he was afraid? B'nei tsarot ani me'id lachem. Okay, and then he comes back again and said he could bring testimony on those families. Okay, so that brings us back to the top of Tet Zion Amud Aleph, which is today's daf. Yeah. Okay. All right. So on today's daf, as I said, we're going to get through. It's a lot of Agadata. Okay. So as we follow through, we'll see what the discussion is. A top line of Tet Zion Amud Aleph. Okay, Tashma. Listen to the following braita. Says the Gemara. B'yamei Rebbe Dosa ben Hyrcanus. We said in the time of Rabbi Dosa ben Hyrcanus, and remember we said that there was not enough time because of warfare for Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel to come to a decision. Okay, so the Gemara picks up, so to speak, there. B'yamei Rabbi Dosa ben Hyrcanus, hutra tzarat habat la'achim. This is where we left off yesterday. That they permitted the co-wife of the daughter, okay, to the brothers. Now this was the view, remember we said, of Beit Shammai. Okay, Shma Mina, we learned from this, asu, that indeed Beit Shammai, so to speak, practiced what they preached. In other words, they basically followed what their argument was and followed that, right? Shma Mina, and indeed that's what we learned. Okay, Gufa. Let's come back now to this situation. Right, says the Gemara. B'mei Rabbi Dosa ben Hyrcanus. Okay, it says again. We said that in the time of Rabbi Dosa ben Hyrcanus, hetiru tzarat chabat la'achim. They permitted the co-wife of the daughter. Okay, right, for the brothers. Okay, so in other words, the daughter was the one of the brothers that died. Okay, the question is, she's the daughter of one's brother. What? She would theoretically be Erva, according to some view. Rabbi Hillel said it was only a regular lav. It was, and things like that. So that was the question. Is it koreit? Okay, and therefore punishable by koreit, and therefore the children would be mamzerim. Okay, or is it not punishable with koreit? Right? So the Gemara says, Vayah davar kasher lechachamim. And this situation was problematic for the sages. Mipnei shechacham gadol haya ve'enav kamu, because he was a great sage, Rabbi Dosa ben Hyrcanus, but his eyes were dimmed. In other words, he was already quite elderly, and because he couldn't see well, okay, milavo lebeit hamidrash, he did not come on a regular basis to the Beis Midrash and participate in the learning. And the other rabbis thought that it was Rabbi Dosi who had issued the law, and this disagreed with how the rabbis felt the law should be. If you're using Art Scroll, look at 16A1, notes number 4 and 5. Make yourself a note to go back and look at that situation, okay? So what happens? Amar, umi yelech v'yodiehu. So who said that in the base midrash, who's going to go and speak to him? Because if he's the one that rendered this decision, okay, we don't agree, and we need to speak to him because he could be considered then as a Cain Mamre. And we have to sort of break the news to him gingerly. So what happens? Amar lehen Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua said to them, Ani elech, I will go. Okay? Va'acharav me, and after him, Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah said he will go. Va'acharav me, and after him who? Rabbi Akiva. Okay? So 3 sages were going to go and confront him, if I can use that word, to see, was he the one who rendered the decision in opposition to the general view of the rabbis? Okay, and that was a very sensitive issue because he was such an important sage. They went and waited on the doorstep, so to speak. Nichnesa shifchato amralo. His maid servant saw the 3 sages, and then she went in and said to him, Rebbe, Chachmei Yisrael ba'in etzlech. Rebbe, sages of Israel have come to see you. Amarla, he said to him, Yikansu, let them come in. V'nichnesu. Okay, and they entered. What did he do? Remember, he is partially blind or whatever. Faso the Rebbe Yehoshua. He grabbed, Zev, you all right? Yeah. He grabbed hold of Rebbe Yehoshua, v'hoshivuhu al mitah shel zahav, and he sat him down on a, it says bed, but it was really like a chaise lounge. Okay, that was the kind of what?
It says a bed of gold.
Right. Okay, in other words, it was decorated with gold. Think of a chaise, a fan. In those days, they had like the Roman, they were curved and you would recline on it, and the decoration. Yeah, right. And it was decorated the wood was decorated in gold. Okay, because Rabbi Dosa ben Hyrcanus was fairly well to do. Amarle Rebbe, he says, so Rabbi Yeshua says to him, Rebbe, Emor letalmidcha acher v'yeshev. Tell another one of your students that he may be seated. Okay, it was showing a sign of respect that they did not sit without being acknowledged and told to. Okay, Amarlo Mihu. He said to him, who is it? Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah. Okay, now remember that this was after the whole episode of Eiduyot, and he had been appointed the Nasi, the Av Beit Din, and then they switched back and they were going to alternate. So he was already, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was, while he was chronologically younger, he was considered equal to many of the older sages. Amar, he said, V'yeshlo ben Lazarya Chavarenu. He says, and there's a son to Azariah, our colleague. In other words, he had not been able to attend Beit HaMidrash for such a long period of time that he wasn't aware of that whole scenario with Rabban Gamliel and things like that. Kara alav hamakre hazeh. And about him, he recited the following pasuk: Nar hayiti gam zakanti v'lo ra'iti tzadik ne'ezov v'zaro mevakesh lachem. Okay, I was young, I became older, and I didn't see a righteous person in need of foodstuffs. Tfaso v'hoshivo al mita shel zahav. Again, he grabbed hold of him and sat him down on a chaise of gold. Amarle, he said to him, Rabbi Yoshua, again, Rebbe, emor letalmidcha acher v'yeshev. Say to another person that it's your student to be seated. Amarle mihu. And he said to him, who is it? Akiva ben Yosef. Okay. By the way, notice here, interestingly enough, that he called Rabbi Eliezer, right? He called him with his title, right? Right? Says there, right? He called him Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, but with Akiva, he did not use a title. Okay? Right? Amarle could be again, because that's why I said it could have been after the incident, okay, where they had raised Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah to the post of, right? Okay. Amarle atahu Akiva ben Yosef, sheshimcha holech misof ha'olam v'ad sofo. Are you the Akiva ben Yosef whose name has spread from one end of the world to the other? Okay. Shav bani, shav, sit, my son, sit. Kimotcha yirbu b'Yisrael. May there be many like you among Israel. In other words, even though Rabbi Akiva had come late in life, we said, based on his story, to become a sage, he wished many more. Hitchilu misavabin oto behilchot. They began to inquire, right? Began to besiege or question him with many deliberations about halacha, ad shehigiu l'tzurat habat, until they get to the tzarat habat, until they got to the topic of the co-wife of the daughter. Amrule, they said to him, tzarat habat mahu. Okay, the situation of the co-wife of the daughter, what's her status? Amar lehem, he said to them, machloket Beit Shammai u Beit Hillel. That was an argument between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Halacha kedivrei mi, and the law is according to whom? Amar lehen, he said to them, halacha kebeit Hillel. The law is like Beit Hillel. Okay? Amrule, they said to him, v'halo mishimcha amru halacha kebeit Shammai. But didn't they say in your name that the law was like Beit Shammai? Amar lahem, he said to them, Dosa shamatim. Did you hear the name Dosa referred to? O Ben Hyrcanus shamatim. Or did you hear the name son of Hyrcanus referred to? In other words, who did you hear taught that halacha? Okay. Amrule, they said to him, Chai Rebbe, by your life, Rebbe, Stam Shamanu. Stam meaning here in general. In other words, we simply heard Ben Hyrcanus. That was who was rumored to have rendered the halacha. Okay? Amar lehem, ach katan yeshli. Okay, I have a younger brother, Bechor Satanhu, and he is the firstborn of Satan. Okay, now Art Scroll and Koren both have a hard time coming up with an easy shot for that statement. Okay, all right. One explained it, but they both had the same concept. Okay. In other words, yes, the language says he's like the firstborn of Satan, but the implication is he's a very sharp, stubborn individual who's very adversarial. Okay, so that's how we're going to, I'm combining both Koren and Art Scroll, okay, conceptually had the same idea, even though they.
Why did he give him such a derogatory title? Because
This is his brother calling him. We'll see. V'Yonatan Shemo, and Yonatan is his name. V'hu mitalmidei Shammai, and he is from the students of Shammai. Vehiz haru. So Rabbi Dosa is saying, and be careful. Shalo yikpach etchem behalachot. That he should not batter down or cut you down with all sorts of laws. Lafi sheyesh imo shalosh me'ot shuvot b'tzarat habat shehi muteret. Because he has 300 answers that he can give you why the co-wife of the daughter should be permitted to the brothers. Okay? In other words, he's very argumentative, challenging, and things like that. Right? Aval me'idani. This is Rabbi Dosa's continuing. I give proof. Alai shamayim va'aretz. And heaven and earth should be my witnesses, he says. Sha'al meducha zo yashav. That he sat on this plaster or mortar seat. Okay, Chagai Hanavi, that Chagai the prophet sat there, Va'amar Shlosha Devarim, and he said 3 things. 1, Sarat Habat Asura, that the co-wife of the daughter, okay, would be considered like an erva, just like the daughter, okay, and therefore is forbidden. 2, Amonu Moav, Ma'asrin Ma'aser Ani B'Shvi'it, that in the areas of Ammon and Moab, those land masses that were neighboring, I don't want to say countries, but neighboring territories, okay, that they carry out Ma'aser Sheni during the Shemitah year. And the third, Umekablim Gerim Min HaKarduyin Umin HaTarmudim, and that we accept converts from the communities of Kardiyum and Tardmud. Okay. Now the Gemara continues. Tana Shenichnesu Nichnesu. We're teaching that when they entered, they all entered together, b'petach echad, through one entranceway. Mikashe yatzau, when the 3 sages left, yatzu b'shlosha ptachim. They went out through 3 different doorways. And what happened? Paga bo b'Rebbe Akiva. And Rabbi Dosa's brother, Rabbi Yonatan ben Dosa, met Rabbi Akiva. And what did he do? Akshele v'okmei. Okay, he challenged him. Okay, and he gave him okmei, and he established his view. Amarle, he said to him, Atahu Akiva sheshimcha holech misof ha'olam v'yad sofo. You are Akiva, whose name spread all around. Ashrecha shezachita l'shem va'adayin lo higata l'ro'ei baka. Okay, happy is it that you've merited such a name, but your level of knowledge hasn't even reached that of the cattle herders. Okay, now that's a good way of telling somebody, insulting them, because the cattle herders were not very well educated. Okay, in other words, you may have a great name, but you don't know anything. That's what you're telling the guy. Okay, Amarlo, he said to him as follows, Rabbi Akiva. So remember, Rabbi Akiva was very modest. And this was how he answered the insult. Va'afilu l'ro'ei tzon. I don't even have the knowledge equivalent to sheep herders. And they were considered even less well educated than the cattle herders. Okay? Now, so that answered that. But nevertheless, Akiva was able to defend and answer and respond back to Yonatan ben Dosa. Okay. Now we go to the second item that Rabbi Dosa had said that the prophet Haggai had talked about. Okay, Ted, we're about 3/4 of the way down the Ammon. Okay, right. Ammon u'Moav ma'asrin ma'aser ani b'shvi'i. Okay, where he said that the territories of Ammon and Moab took tithes of Ma'aser Ani, okay, in the Shvi'it, in the Shemitah year. Da'amar Mar, as was said by the master, Harbe Krachim Kavshu Ole Mitzrayim. There were many towns that were conquered by those who came up from Egypt. Okay? Velo Kavshu Ole Bavel. But many of those towns were not conquered by those who returned from Babylonia, okay, right, and to reconquer the land. Ukdusha Rishona Kadsha L'Sha'ata, and the sanctity of those locations was only temporary. Velo Kidsha La'atid Lavo. And they did not conquer and sanctify the land for perpetuity. Okay. Vehinichum kadeh sheyismachu alehen aniyim b'shvi'it. And they allowed those lands to be considered outside territory, not part of Eretz Yisrael, where tithing was the oraita. Right? And therefore, this would allow those locations for the poor people to rely on them to be able to get foodstuffs during Shemitah year. Okay? So that was that example. Third example. Umekablim gerim min hakarduyim v'hatar mudim. And he said that they could accept converts from the areas of Kardum and Tarmudim. Aini, is that really the case? Vahatani Rami Bar Yecheskel. But didn't Rami Bar Yecheskel teach as follows? Ein mekablin gerim menakarduyim. That we do not accept converts from the location of Kardum. Okay? Now, Kardum was an ancient city. Tardum was another name. And that was known as Palmyra, okay, which was a major commercial center at a certain point of time, okay, during the time of the Romans, particularly when the Romans controlled that area, okay. Amar Rav Ashi, Kartuyim itmar, Kida Amre Inshe, Kartuyim Psulim. Okay, we're saying the people from Khartoum, that's the location. That's what was said, as people commonly said that they were pasul, they were invalid to be converts. Ve'ika Amre, and there were those that say, Tani Rami Bar Yecheskel, that Rami Bar Yecheskel taught as follows, Ein mekablin gerim mina Kartuyim, that we do not accept converts from Kartuyim. My love, what would be the reason not? Hainu Kartuyim, Hainu Karduyim, that the Kartuyim are the same as the Kardumim. Okay? Amar Rav Ashi. Says Rav Ashi, no. Kartuye lechud, v'karduye lechud. No, they were separate communities. One was Kartuim and one was Karduyim. Kida Amre Inshe, as people say, Kartuye Psule. The Kartuyins, they were invalid to be accepted. Rabbi Yochanan, Vesavia da Amre. Rabbi Yochanan and a number of the elders said as follows, Amre Travaihu, that the two of them said, right? Ein mekablin gerim min hatar mudim, that we don't accept converts from the location of Tardum. Umi amar Rabbi Yochanan hachi, and did Rabbi Yochanan really say this? Vahatnan, but wasn't it taught elsewhere in a Mishnah? Kol haktamim habaim min harekem tahorin, that any garments that had blood stains on them that came from the town of Rechem, which was right on the border near this other location, tahorim, those women would be considered pure, right? The Rabbi Yehuda mitame, but Rabbi Yehuda says those women would be tame. Why? Mipnei shehein gerim v'toim, because even though they might be converts, they are probably make mistakes in the laws of Nida. Why? Because we're going to see in a moment, right? Namely, mi bein ha'ovdei kochavim tahorin. If they clear that those women were descended from non-Jews, then we normally say that the blood-stained clothing of non-Jews doesn't apply, okay, to Tuma and Tara, okay? Vahavian ba, and that is the discussion we had about it. So the question was, could it have been that those women, okay, from that location, could they be really Jews, or could they be descendants of people whose family background was problematic? And the Gemara is now going to go into this in a little more detail. Okay? Kipasik Vitani. Okay? And we can conclude or state categorically the following, as was taught. Mi bein ha'ovdei kochavim, if they're descendants of non-Jews. Va'afilu min Talmud, and even if they're from Talmud. Okay, if we know that their family background is non-Jewish, then any bloodstains is not a problem. Okay, Va'amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan then says, Zot omeret mekablim gerim mitarmud. That seems to say that we may accept converts from this location of Talmud. B'chitema, and if you want to say Zot velo sevirele, all right, that was the case, but he did not think in that manner, because he did not accept it. Vaha amar Rabbi Yochanan, but didn't Rabbi Yochanan himself say, halacha kistam Mishnah, that the law follows the Stam Mishnah, Rabbi Meir. Amora'ainin. But what we're going to say that actually there's a machloket here of Amora'i. Va'aliba de Rabbi Yochanan. And it's based on what was the position of Rabbi Yochanan. Mitarmud, my tamalo. From Talmud, what would be the reason that we would not accept their conversions? Plige ba Rabbi Yochanan v'Savia. Okay, that there was a machloket between Rabbi Yochanan and the elders, right? Chad Amar, one says Mishum Avdei Shlomo, okay, that it was due to the fact that their earliest descendants, their earliest antecedents, were servants of King Solomon, and that these were Gentile servants. And what they did is they were the ones who under Solomon, who founded this city and built it up. And while they were there, they married Jewish women unlawfully. And so therefore, their progeny is questionable. V'chad amar mishum benot Yerushalayim. And the others argue, okay, that the reason the Talmud residents cannot be accepted as converts is because they joined other the Romans or others, or the Assyrians, whatever, the Babylonians, when they attacked the temple, okay, we're going to see what happened, that they captured and raped Jewish women. Okay, so the Gemara goes on to explain it. Bishlema Laman Amar Mishum Avdei Shlomo. That's understandable regarding those who explained it based on the view of the Gentile servants of King Solomon. Kasavar. Why? Because we understand of the opinion. Oved Kochavim Ve'eved Haba Albat Yisrael Havlad Mamzer. That if it's a Gentile idol worshiper, okay, or if it's a servant, and they have relations with a Jewish woman, the progeny is considered a mamzer. Ella, Laman Amar Mishum Benot Yerushalayim, Maihi. But if they argued that they can't accept their converts because of the daughters of Jerusalem, what's the reason? Please.
Aren't they considered Jewish?
We'll see.
Another point of this Monday on.
Let's see. Plige ba Rav Yosef v'Rabbanan. On this, there was a machloket between Rav Yosef and Rabbanan. Utravayu mishmei de Rabba bar Barchana. And both of them said, in the name of Rabba bar Barchana, Chad Amar, Tresar alfe gavre, veshita alfe kashtuye. One said that there were 12,000 men and 6,000 archers. V'chad amar treser alfe gavre uminaihu shita alfe kashtuye. That there were 12,000 men, and among them were 6,000 archers. B'sha'ah shenichnesu Ovdei Kochavim Lahechal, and that at the time that these idol worshippers came and attacked and sacked the Beis Hamikdash, Hakol Mifnu Al Kesef V'Sahav, they all were drawn to take whatever gold and silver, whatever booty they could, right? Vahem, and these, namely those who had come from Talmud, what did they do? Haim nifnu al banot Yerushalayim. They turned towards the Jewish women. Shnei Amar, as said in a pasuk from the book of Eov, from Eicha, Nashim b'Tzion inu betulot ba'arei Yehuda. Okay, that women in Zion were suffered, raped, okay, and the virgins of the city of Judah. Okay? So that was the answer, what they gave. Why, again, there was this problem of, again, Gentile and Jewish relations. Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani. He said as follows, Amar Rabbi Yonatan, in the name of Rabbi Yonatan. Pasuk zeh, Sar ha'olam amru. This verse was said by the Sar ha'olam, if you want to call it the angel, okay, or the being on the heavens. Who said it? Nar hayiti gam zakanti. Man amre. So who said it then? The master of the world. Who said it? Ilema kudshe brichu. If we say it was the Kadosh Baruch Hu, mi'ika kanakame, is it possible that he ages before people, before someone? Ve'ela David amre, but rather David said it. Mi kashish kulehai, and when David said it, was he really that old? Ela shmamina sar olam amru, but rather we say that the master of the world said it. Va'amar Rebbe Shmuel Okay, and says Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan, in the name of Rabbi Yonatan. Mai dichtiv, what's written here? Yado parash tsar al kol machmadah. Where it says the hand spread, right, narrowly, okay, on the areas. Ze amonu mo'av, b'sha'a shenichnesu ovdei kochavim lehechal. Hakol nifnu al kesef v'zahav, v'hem nifnu al sefrei Torah. Okay? So in other words, this is a different statement, that these other nations went to take gold and silver, but Ammon and Moab, okay, turned to the Torah. Okay? Now, why do we say that? Let's see. Amru zeh shekatuv, and it said, that one who wrote it, lo, but didn't, in other words, doesn't the Torah say, lo yavo Ammoni uMoavi b'kahal Hashem, that you're not supposed to accept anyone from Moab or Ammon into the Jewish community, Jewish people. Okay, Yisaref ba'esh, that they should be burned with fire. Tziva Hashem liYaakov sivivav tzarav. Again, apostle. Amar Rav kegon humya lepum nahara. Okay, just like the people of Humnia, okay, on the river, right? Namely, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Asi, this is Rav Yehuda, Rav Asi, Oved Kochavim, Shekidesh B'zman Hazeh, Chosheshin LeKedushin. Okay, that if there are idol worshippers, non-Jews, who in this time, okay, take to wife, okay, Jewish women, we are doubtful. We are concerned about the marriage. Shema me'asarat hashvatim, okay, that maybe they are from the 10 tribes. In other words, remember we say that when the Assyrians conquered the northern kingdom of Israel, all of those Jews were then deported to Assyria, okay? They could have mingled with the Gentile population, and as a result, their status as Jews is questionable, okay? And therefore, any progeny of them are questionably Jewish, okay? And we've already said we have that difficulty, okay? Vaha, but don't we say, raises the Gemara as a challenge to that idea. Vaha kol de parish miruba parish. Don't we say that something that is separated from the majority, okay, we still say it's identified as from that majority? Okay, the Gemara answers, B'duchtak de kavi'i. There we're talking about permanent places. Okay, that phrase is important when it comes to issues of kashrut. Remember, if a piece of meat is taken from a number of stores, okay. Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana, he says as follows: Vayinachem bechalat ubechibor nahar gozen va'arei midai. Okay, and they comforted those in Chalat and Chibor on the river Gozen, the cities of Medea. Chalach, that city, Zeh Chalzon. Chibor, just go over, Zeh Chadiyav. Nahar Goren, Zoginzak. In other words, they tried to identify in their time those particular locations. Va'arei midai, zo Chemdan lechavroteha. That's Chemdan and its surroundings, right? Va'amrei la, and others say, zo Nihar lechavroteha. That's Nihar and Chavroteha and its surroundings. its suburbs. Chavroteh Haman, okay, just to finish. Amar Shmuel, Krach, the city, Moshche, okay, Chidke, Vidurmakaya. In other words, those were the suburbs of the city. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, V'chulan Lepsul. And all of those locations then are considered ineligible for conversion. Ki Amrita Kame de Shmuel. As he said before Shmuel, Amarle bincha haba min Yisraelit karui bincha. It says one who comes from a clearly Jewish woman is considered your progeny. Ve'ein bincha haba min ha'ovedet kochavim karui bincha ela binah. Okay? But one who comes from a Gentile woman is not called your son, but it's called her son. And that's where we get basically that statement, okay? That makes it very clear. Right? We'll stop right there for today.
That's good. Yeah.
All right.
Morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Everybody stay well.
Give you, I'll send that.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. They were away. I think they were coming back sometime yesterday.
Too quiet, you know.